Hey guys, a lot of times in these podcast recordings, we're going to discuss topics that are derived from one of the great curriculums that we're working with right now from Better Man Ministries. They have a core curriculum, it's 11 weeks long, and our team's been going through some of this curriculum. Wanted to let you know that some of the things that we're discussing are coming out of this curriculum, and so we hope that you'll take the opportunity to be a part of this curriculum as well sometime in the future, either alone, with a group of men, at your church. It's a fantastic resource, and I just want to encourage you to be a part of it.
It's the Better Man 365 podcast.
All right, here we are. It is the Better Man 365 podcast. I'm here with Jeff Adams. Jeff, we're still calling it the 365, right? Better Man 365 podcast, right?
Absolutely. Nothing's changed.
Only reason why I'm saying that is because we are going through a whole rebrand that I'm so excited about. Now, we're going to talk about a little bit of that. But first, I wanted to get to Jeff here, who has been, dude, you've been pivotal. Everything that you've seen out there, social media, just with this podcast, period, you've been the hands and feet to make it all look as sexy as it does out there and putting it out there. While us guys, we're just the jokers who get to come and just be conversation pieces.
I mean, is it sexy? I mean, does it have that appeal? Because, man, as you know, like, just with content in general, like, it's easy to me, like, everybody's grandmother either has a podcast now or they're doing social media because it's just something they do, like churches, businesses. And so sometimes you don't know. You don't know exactly what to do. Do you follow trends? And, and I'm a little bit different with that, depending on things, especially with Better Man. That was different than originally what Better Man 365 was known for, which you have a history with Better Man 365 in the past of it was events, which it still is. But I think when we launched this thing, we kind of did we explained a little bit, but I think, me just going through the reels and the podcast and seeing these things, I think there was like an identity thing. People are like, what is this? It's not what I'm used to. When I first started, I was taking the old events, chopping them up, these speakers, pastors, entertainers, and chopping it up. And then all of a sudden there's these 5 guys on microphones talking about life and how to be a better man.
Well, I love that you're bringing it up because, yes, people have gotten used to the Better Man. It traditionally was a once a year event. There would be little pocket events throughout the years as well. But that one pocket event where you would have your Denzel Washington, your Emmett Smith, your Tim Tebow, the time that we had Journey and Korn perform together. I mean, that was
crazy.
That's what everybody's used to. But in the years of the podcasting where we said, okay, so it's enough to give the guys a really big event, but what are they getting in between? And so that's where we said we've got to drip line them something. So and we've got curriculum that guys can go through. So this way you can do discipleship together. But the podcast allows us guys that work for the Better Man brand behind the scenes to sit and talk about the rigorousness of being a dude in today's time. Not only in today's time, but in business, in relationship, and in ministry. What it's like to walk with Jesus and still be on a planet like we're on.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I think the core conversation here today is to talk about like the whole new rebrand and what we're going to be doing with Better Man 365 and with Better Man Ministries out of Dallas, Texas, with the curriculum that we use on the podcast.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, the direction. I'm Jeff Adams. This is Obi, and there's 3 more of us. Joe, there's David, and there's Marcos. And Marcos has been running the ship for Better Man 365 now for about 10 months now.
Yeah.
Brian kind of handed it over to the ministry to Marcos. So
Brian's a grandpa now.
Yeah.
And he's got some stuff on his plate that's a little heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing to see because I knew about Better Man 365 event. I knew about it, but I was never really involved in it. And so, like, I think for the last 10 months when I've been involved in working with Better Man 365, is like I feel like I was there because I've had to go through all this content, and the events and this footage, and so I was like, I feel like I was there. And it's like we were on this text message chat with all of us that do the podcast. And I go, man, I feel like I know you guys better than yourselves now because I spent a lot of times with you guys analyzing body language and people's, nervous tics that they have. And I try to chop it up and make you guys sound a lot better. I know I have to do it for myself.
You do make us sound better.
But yeah, we need to just talk about it. It's like, what is a better man? What is Better Man 365? And where this ministry is going with the vision of what Marcos kind of laid down is, it's still an event, that there'll be an event this year that will be soon announced that we're going to be doing, that's for men to just achieve what they're called to do in life more than anything. Where that's Better Man 365 is that spark plug that gets you amped and pumped and to become a better man. Because let's face it, there's a lot of men out there just kind of struggling along in life and going through the motions of like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? I go to church, I'm a dad, I show up, I do the Sunday thing. I want to get back home, football's on. Most men out there don't have a purpose. They don't know what their gift is in life per se. They haven't found that thing where the Lord's called them to do. And it doesn't mean you're going to be called into full-time ministry. I mean, you can be called into the marketplace where you work to be the light.
As a matter of fact, that's probably where most people are called.
Yeah. And so, but a lot of men don't understand that. They already, because I was one of those guys for years. Like I had this thing inside me of just like, hey, I got this thing. I don't know what it is. And I could never flush it out. So I just struggled along in my journey and show up to church and go through the motions, put my hands up, read my Bible every once in a while and do that. But God's got so much more for men in their life. There's so much more to life because we're called to lead our families, lead the communities. We've missed the mark somehow. And it's time for men to step back up and get these simple tools, not in a pointing finger way, you did this the wrong way, but in a loving way. Like, hey, let's figure this out together through Christ. Spending 10 months with the content, being under Marcos, that's the vision. It's like to help men achieve that success in life of being a better man, of being a godly father, husband, neighbor.
Yeah. Well, again, we're going to continue to do the events. I mean, along with the rebrand comes that great announcement that you said. There's going to be 4 gentlemen that we're going to have that I think are going to blow your minds. We're so excited about what we've been able to achieve behind the scenes for y'all. And I hope that you're okay with this, that you get the events, but you also get us guys having a deep and real conversation. And I'm glad where we've gone so far. And we hope that we're going to set a pattern. We hope that us guys who have gotten together, we hope that you eventually get together with your guys too, because it has been so beneficial. I think it's easy to be a lone wolf. I like even my own alone time, but I don't get, hold on. First of all, my main connection is with Jesus, right? So that's where the main wisdom comes from, but I need to sharpen up. That's why even the scriptures say you need to sharpen up with other guys. And you guys have helped me flush out things that, yes, I can go to the Father with, but the Father will give me answers through y'all. And so I've appreciated this to the point that I want guys to be able to do this too. But I get it. Guys don't, even for us, for our discipleship group, it is hard. It is hard for us to get together. And guys don't naturally gravitate to, hey, guys, let's get together and do a Bible study. You don't really have a lot of guys being like, oh, count me in. And you know what? And some of that is unfortunate. Let me say this from a who I am now side. Some of that is unfortunate because that book here, I even brought mine because I knew at some point I was going to use it today because there's a story that I have for you. But that book is full of so many treasures that I'm afraid when I was young and uneducated, or how about this? When I was resistant, I didn't want to understand. And now that I understand, it unlocks. I mean, if you want a college degree, you can get a college degree from that book, from the wisdom that it shares with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it right there. And a lot of people don't understand the foundation of what you just said, of men just struggling along. Like they don't know what to do necessarily, because we tend to like, hey, let's retreat. Let me just do the dad thing. Let me just go lounge on the couch and just chill out. But like through the Better Man Ministries out of Dallas with the curriculum, it's a game changer, because all you have to do, it's free. Number one, you can go to the website, download it. And if you want to start a conversation with men, with the podcast or without the podcast, because that's all it really takes. It takes one person to, even in a community of church, because let's face it, the reason, Brian started, the founder of Better Man 365, there was a lack, and he didn't even want to do it originally. He was just like, really? I think it was a reel I did a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about it. It was like he went to some men's ministry, and it was like cold pancakes, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with this. People's viewpoints on men's ministry has always been dull, because it's the same thing like on Father's Day, right? You go to like Mother's Day at church, women are so praised, and hey, I'll praise them. Let's give flowers. And then, excuse the language, but you go to a Sunday service on Father's Day, and sometimes you get the hell beat out of you as a man because the message is like, you're not adding up. You got to be stronger men. And you're just like, do I really want to do this? So I think the viewpoint of how men perceive this or the church perceived it, yeah, because you've got to be hard on men, but there's also men don't want to deal with that. Like, I already go to work. I already get yelled at already. Why do I want to go to a church and get pointed finger like I'm not adding up? So like these tools and the podcast and the events that we do and Better Man Ministries curriculum, these are tools to help men like this tribe. I like, for instance, what you do once a month, or is it twice a month, what you do in Winter Garden, Florida. You saw a vision, you meet with men, discuss that a little bit.
So we started a fraternity in downtown Winter Garden, which is here in beautiful Florida. And you said, God gave me a vision. He actually didn't give me a vision. He actually spoke to my heart as I was drinking at a bar. And in downtown Winter Garden, where I'm at, the brewery there, like I see, it was like Cheers. You sit down, everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And over a period of me going there for probably 2-3 years, finally, as I got back into church, as I started getting back into Scripture. So again, I'm trying to balance these two lives, right? I get back into church, but I'm still kind of the same guy who was drinking, and so still trying to balance the two. But once I got into the Word, once I get into the Bible, you start to understand what the Father sounds like, what He expects from us. You start to get a tone from all the stories. You start to get a tone of what He expects and what He wants, right? So sitting at the bar, I just felt this tug on my heart that said, you need to do this, but do this for the kingdom.
Right.
And so over months, and I rejected that voice because in the beginning I didn't know. I was like, is that me talking to me? Like, is that me wanting to drink but still be okay with the Lord, or is that you talking to me? And I would forget about it, and it would consistently tug on me. And finally, I said, all right, Lord, well, what is it that you want? You want guys to meet at a bar? How is this possibly going to be beneficial or fruitful? And He said, just do it. And I went to the brewery owners and I said, listen, I know that this is going to sound interesting. I said, but I feel like God is telling me that to bring the community together, it can't be a church group. It's got to be something like this that meets at a bar, that guys can let their walls down, and guys can be men, and guys can talk like men. And still, at the very foundation of it, you've got a Jesus follower who's running the thing. And so that's where we started the brotherhood. And so now it's a fraternity. We have over 760 members.
Wow.
We have guys who go kayaking together. We have guys who do jujitsu together. We have guys who go skydiving together. We have meetings where we bring in all different sorts of skilled people. For instance, we had a guy who is a professional fisherman. And so he came with a bunch of line, bunch of hooks, bunch of bait, and all of our guys got to learn how to do at least one knot and how to bait a hook, so this way you could take your kid fishing. So we tried to do things to get guys together in an environment that's non-threatening, because the minute, let me tell you, even the closer that I get to Jesus, like my fraternity meetings are starting to change too. Like I start with a prayer, and they're going to get testimony out of me because that's all it's coming out. It's just overflowing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. And yeah, it's proving to be fruitful.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously called Sons of Thunder, correct?
Sons of Thunder.
But let me ask you this. Was it sparked through you being involved in Better Man 365 when you had the vision, or was it before Better Man 365?
This was before.
Okay.
Yeah. Because even before I even got hooked up with Better Man, I kept saying to the Lord, I kept saying, man, I want Sons of Thunder to be really good for 34787. That's the zip code, 34787. And the Lord kept telling me, boy, you're worried about this when we're going to work with this.
Yeah.
And then that's when Better Man called me. And then Better Man didn't just call me to host. We then had to go worldwide because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So when the Lord said, stop thinking about that little zip code, we went worldwide with the Better Man broadcast. And so we reached all those countries. And so I get to sit in a space where I sit back and I see the Lord working. I see what He says, what He completes, what will be done. And I get to sit here and I'm like, okay, well then game on. If He's going to be this good all the time and He's been this good in the past, He's going to be that good in the future. So I'm on board. Yeah.
And I think it's a key point. It just takes one man to stand up with a vision and to go do something in the community. Just one man,
So it's obedience, man. The obedience is the currency in which you get a really cool exchange. When you're obedient to the Lord, there's a really cool exchange that happens when you turn that in.
Yeah, and that's the whole the whole point of Better Man 365
Yeah.
is to be that spark plug with the event, with the podcast, with this other content that we're creating, to just motivate you to like, look, God can give you a download to go do something extraordinary for your community. And it just takes one person to do that. And look what, over 750 people involved with Sons of Thunder. You've been doing it for several years, but just that one thing. And God, literally, that faith can move mountains doing that.
Yeah, well, and I do get to sit back and with no ego, I look at this whole group and I see guys talking to each other. And I'm like, they would have never met each other had we never done this, had you never called. And that obedience is key. So I hope that we can do that together, spark each other up together. It's such a beauty to have the podcast now to be able to sharpen each other up through conversations.
Oh, yeah. And so for recap for this thing, be on the lookout for the announcement for the Better Man 365 event this year, because people have been saying on social media, you guys doing an event? What's going on? We're doing an event.
We are.
Be on the lookout for that. Also, follow the podcast. It's being released weekly. We're also doing a new thing, like kind of a live stream conversation thing. It's called Conversations, where we'll be interviewing different people.
I was going to say, through the conversations, you're going to want to follow us, because through the conversations, I bet you that's probably where we're going to drop all the headliners, the 4 guys that are going to be speaking.
Correct. Yeah. So follow us on all the social media platforms, Better Man 365. You can follow us there. And we're excited. We're excited about this journey, and we're excited about all the men that's going to show up and be involved.
And comment. If you have some ideas of the stuff that you'd like to see, we're totally open game. So thank you for watching.
Subscribe to the podcast and follow us at Better Man 365 on our social media platforms.